Unit 2, Lesson 4, Peacemaking Principles. Welcome to Conflict Resolution and Peacemaking, the class that teaches you how to manage interpersonal conflict and drama for yourself and others. I'm your instructor, David Lowry. I can't stress how helpful Ken Sande's slippery slope of conflict can be for the peacemaker. From my own experience, I would have to say that one's ability to remain firmly centered in a conflict without giving up or giving in to reactive behavior is at least 60% of the peacemaking process. If one can hold the middle ground by ignoring the offensive and reactive behaviors of others, sooner or later, an opportunity for peacemaking will occur. In our last session, we studied Ken Sande's slippery slope of conflict and David Emerald's empowerment dynamic. Both approaches are simple to learn and easy to use. Both can yield powerful results. We hope you'll try them. In today's podcast, we want to reflect on what we've taught you in this unit and offer some principles we think will make you a better peacemaker. So let's talk about some of these peacemaking principles. Our first one is learn to depersonalize fear responses. As I mentioned about my fear of snakes, my reactions aren't personally directed towards any one variety of snakes. My body produces a fear response when I'm in these situations. In the same way, it's helpful to remember that many of the unhappy and inappropriate responses we observe in the conflict process come from fear and psychological pain more than anything else. Keeping this principle in mind helps us depersonalize negative outbursts and reactions and focus more on the underlying issues of a problem. Though it may not seem so, it's always a choice to personalize or depersonalize any angry behavior in conflicts. Through training, we may become more skillful and understand that those fear behaviors should not be taken personally, but most likely the result of psychological responses to fear and stress. Number 2, counter fear responses with compassion. If we were to see a crying child, we would not belittle or attack the child because of their behavior. We would feel compassion and seek a cause for the crying. Perhaps the child is scared and needs to be held. Maybe it's wet, hungry, or tired. It is compassion that drives us to relieve this child's suffering. In the same way, peacemakers can train themselves to recognize the underlying fear that's hijacking higher reasoning abilities. In the same way, conflict produces fear and anxiety in many people, causing them to react in ways that don't always make logical sense. One of the best tools of a peacemaker is compassion. In the context of a conflict, compassion is the ability to recognize the underlying fear behind the observed conflict and a desire to lessen its suffering. With time and training, all may learn to address common issues that fuel conflicts. A compassionate attitude allows the peacemaker to focus on solving issues rather than becoming personally involved or escalating difficult situations. The ability to remember this principle can cause a shift in one's thinking and bring about a tipping point for more favorably solving problems. Number 3, be aware of your conflict style. Peacemakers need self-knowledge of their weaknesses. All conflict styles have some positive and negative aspects, and no one style adequately addresses all conflicts. Sadly, most people rely on one exclusive approach in all situations. Additionally, some of the available approaches work only under limited conditions. So be willing to try different methods as you solve difficulties, besides relying upon your default approach. Number 4, avoid attack and avoidance approaches. As the slippery slope indicates, the attacking and avoiding styles many people use are rarely practical approaches for finding solutions. Aggressive methods drive people away from us, but the underlying problems remain firmly in place. Avoidance may give one side what they want, but it only encourages people to keep doing harmful things at a high cost to the other side's self-esteem and worth. To become a practical peacemaker, one must learn to adjust to circumstances and utilize conflict styles that best complement them. Number 5, Choose action over avoidance. Are you a conflict avoider? This behavioral style allows resentment to build. It sends silent messages that you do not care or think enough of others to try and improve things. It's usually not a helpful way of making things better. Ken Sande would call this peace faking. As peacemakers, we must learn how to address the concerns of ourselves and others by being active participants in the peacemaking process. Instead of avoiding conflict, learn peacemaking skills so you may become more successful at addressing your concerns. Start by noticing the things you tend to avoid or that cause you fear, leading to avoidance behavior. Have you put off a doctor's appointment? Set up the appointment. Do you need to speak with your teacher about a grade? Send an email or drop by their office. Do you need an extension on a bill? Call the company and speak with a representative. Take baby steps and start doing what needs to be done. On the other hand, as peacemakers encounter avoiding behaviors in others, it's essential to remember that many people resort to this because they are anxious, stressed, or overwhelmed by their circumstances. Even though avoiders are not present to scream and shout as some do, they are acting out their fear and pain nonetheless. Number 6, seek professional advice. We think it's wise to note that some problems are so large and complex that one honestly may not know what steps to take. In situations like these, seek professional help. For instance, coming out as LGBTQ+, or deciding to get married, or to get divorced, or facing huge financial problems or abuse cases. All of these may require a skilled counselor's experience. These problems, left to themselves, will only worsen. Don't try and handle them on your own. Seek professional advice. Number 7, do not escalate a conflict. A general rule in peacemaking is we do not escalate or make a conflict worse. This is not a hard and fast rule because there are times when escalation can be a helpful strategy. But conflict styles involving attack, domination, and ignoring the concerns of others make conflicts worse. These approaches often lead to increased friction and cause others to believe they must become defensive or make things worse. Physical violence often leads to more physical violence and killings. Strategies involving revenge or getting even may feel satisfying in the short term, but they do not solve underlying problems. These approaches create even more problems later as each side behaves more outrageously than before. Number 8, adopt solutions that help all concerned. Except for emergencies, conflict styles in which one side insists on meeting their needs while ignoring others do not lead to a peaceful resolution. Peacemaking, unlike litigation, desires adequate solutions for all concerns, not just one side. Many seem to forget that people always find a way of protesting perceived ill treatment, causing further problems for those top-down systems. As an example of this, the father of a friend of mine worked for a railroad company. As a way of protesting some newly created top-down regulations, the workforce decided to strictly enforce their working contracts by not doing anything that was not explicitly required of them in their contracts. This brought the railroad to a halt, as many of the workers' jobs that they were formerly doing were no longer being done. The point is this: conflict styles that seek to enrich only one party at the expense of another usually wind up causing more pain in the long run than benefits in the short term. Number 9, as we noticed in the empowerment dynamic, some people think they are being helpful by doing things for other people. Yet, there's a difference between doing something helpful and hindering someone from solving their problems, even if they ask you for help. Peacemaking isn't about taking issues away from people. It's helping them to resolve their problems so that they resolve them once and for all. Still, some people do need our help from time to time. In this unit, we have looked at common approaches for approaching conflict. First, we discussed the physiological impact of conflict and noted how it hijacks our reasoning ability. We studied Gray and McNaughton's biopsychological theory of fight, flight, and freeze. Then we discussed Raheem's conflict styles and cautioned that we shouldn't use only one approach to solve a conflict. Rather, we can choose from a number of styles. Next, we examined some helpful ways of understanding conflict offered by Ken Sandy of Relational 360 and David Emerald's Power of TED. We concluded this unit by offering some peacemaking principles based on what we learned in this unit. In our next unit, we will study the important role of perceptions, selective exposure, and attribution theory. Thank you for joining us for this lesson. We invite you to download a copy of the program script for this podcast so you can answer some questions based on this discussion. We will see you again next unit.